Thanks for joining us on afl.com.au. Justin, what goes through your mind as you get close to round one and Geelong?
Good to be on, Schmooky. Still in process of trying to finish off our preparation in some sense. We've got some things to do in the background and putting some finishing touches on some of our work. But most of it's been done, and there's probably a level of excitement going into next week that the season's finally here after a long pre-season, off-season, and the players are really keen to get into the real stuff, as am I.
Seems like there's a bit of excitement going around. What would you say is the prevailing mood among the players and coaches?
Yeah, not sure I could label or thought about labelling it with anything in particular, because it'll be a mix of different emotions. I'm sure there'll be some anxiety next week around selection, and then there'll be some anxiety around once we get close to the game. But it's really probably take the emotions out of it and just really focus on the process and what we need to do. And if we get that right, we'll put in a good showing.
Seems like it's been a bit of a brutal pre-season for the players as far as what you've put them through. What are the biggest gains you think you've made as a team?
Time will tell in some sense. I think we're fitter. Think we're stronger. I think it's been the gym work has gone to another level. And you see that in our contest and our ability to hit bodies at training. There's been times when I've had to remind the players that you're going up against your teammates because they just seem to be hitting a bit harder than what they were 2 years ago and even last year. So I've been able to endure the heat since Christmas. We've had multiple days where it's north of 35 degrees and touching on 40 degrees, and they've been able to endure through that and get each other through that. So as far as footy goes, obviously a really consistent product. I think we took some steps forward in that last year to be a really consistent team, and we want to build on that this year.
Is there a session that comes to mind or a hit between a few players when you talk about having to warn them and remind them that they're going up against their teammates?
Not really. Not really. Well, there's a session before Christmas which pushed them right to the edge. There's been a couple of sessions, probably one after the 4-day break, which was solid. Our leaders were away in Melbourne, and it was 40 degrees, and we asked a fair bit of them that day, and they got through it. And those tough moments that you get through together really build connection amongst the group, and when people come together and get through hard shit, then it builds resilience, and we've built plenty of that over the pre-season.
I think I remember the session where you put them through a stack of running at the end. Do you surprise them with that, or do they know what's coming?
No, they don't always know it's coming. They always suspect it's coming. And Phil Merriman, our high performance manager, he runs that program, and I think they get a bit flat on him when he puts running on them after a 2-hour intra-club. That it's a bit of a flex by Phil, but it's just getting the players expecting the unexpected and being able to get through those tough moments.
I think it was about 2 years ago you spoke, might have been at the best and fairest of the season launch, about your vision for them to be one of the fittest teams in the AFL. Do you feel like you've achieved that now?
I think we can mix it with anyone, and I think we can outlast anyone. I think across the playing list we've got great array of speed, repeat speed, endurance, and we're building a pretty good mix.
What type of buy-in does that take from the players to achieve that?
Like all aspects of their development, takes real purpose, takes a lot of commitment, and it takes in some sense a lot of mental toughness. And it's 35 degrees, done in 2-hour training session and they're doing running at the end, sprints. The mental toughness you build by pushing not only your mind but your body through that builds great resilience.
Are there metrics that you would have sort of off the top of your head that indicate that fitness that you've got now as a team?
There is. I won't go into them, but there is a lot of metrics that says that we've done a lot more work and we build our pre-seasons year on year, and not only a lot more work in terms of volume. It's probably the intensity that shows up of that volume, doing it at a higher intensity than what we have in the past.
Yep.
And that'll protect their bodies against the things that they're going to have to come up against across the course of the season.
There were obviously games last year where you're in winning positions and weren't able to hold on. Do you feel like that level of fitness that you've got now as a group can play a mental role in games?
Yeah. We should build confidence that we can keep executing our roles and doing the reps for 4 quarters. And there's not saying that they're not going to be fatigued, halfway through the 3rd quarter against Geelong, because early in the season it's a different level of intensity. It takes a while to come up and get up to that. It wasn't a fitness issue back into last year. Injuries played a role, but there's some things in probably our maturity and our ability to mix things up. And the way I summed it up to the players at the back end of last year is we got 90% of our games in good order. What we need to add is 10% to be able to execute better in those moments.
I know you like to ring the bell, but if we could look back a little bit before we look at this year, how deeply was that last month analysed by you and the coaches and the players as well?
Yeah, we tried to make sure we were balanced with the way we reviewed the season. And, the 90-10 sort of plays into that, because I think sometimes when you finish the season like we did, you can just think, oh, we lost the last 4 games, and go down that pathway and execute that, and you lose sight of things you did do well. And it wasn't as though the last 4 rounds we folded and packed it in and waved the white flag. We fought right to the end of all those games, and what probably let us down was our ability to execute role under the heat of the moment. Execute the game plan and fall back on the game plan when that pressure of the occasion is at its highest and most important. And there's probably a bit of game awareness, situational awareness mixed in with that. We've attacked over the pre-season.
What did you reference as the things that you did well during that period?
Well, we put ourselves in every game. Those, GWS we were well up at half time, had multiple opportunities in the last quarter to go in front, couldn't quite execute. Geelong game, we're up at 3-quarter time, didn't quite execute in the last quarter. In the Port game, we pushed Port all the way before they kicked a few late. So, we were a draw against Essendon with 10 seconds or 30 seconds to go. So, clearly, if you're in those positions against the last 3 sides were finalists and top 4, you're doing a lot right. So, it's just making sure that we didn't forget the good stuff amongst the disappointment.
Has it been driving the players at all that last month?
You have to ask them individually. It's not something we talk about too much as a motivator, or we don't talk about it all as a motivator. Yep. Motivation comes from within, and them wanting to be intrinsically motivated to be their best selves. And we probably talk about how our environment motivates more than the disappointment of the last 4 games.
Do you feel as a group like there's things that you've got now that maybe you didn't have? And I know there were personnel issues during that end of the season, but aside from that, maybe some other things that aren't as obvious that you've got now as a group that you didn't have then?
One of the ways of adding flexibility, we've tried to throw secondary roles at players more across the pre-season. And philosophy is when you draft players, you put them in roles, you allow them to become, allow them to get really competent at those roles at AFL footy and get really comfortable in those roles at AFL football before you throw secondary roles, and that does take time. You don't want players to be jack of all trades and masters of none. So I think there's a core group of our players now getting to the age and the experience that they can cope with getting more stuff thrown at them, and saw that back into last year. We started putting, Youngie went into the midfield back into 2023, and last year he went forward, and Caleb went forward and impacted as a deep forward last year. Andy's gone forward and impacted, and we've tried to evolve that over pre-season to add more players in that mix. And Bolts has come in, and he obviously is proven AFL A-grade player at midfield and deep forward and high forward. So he's thrown into that mix as well. And you get a fair few players into that sort of mode, you're able to add a fair bit more flexibility to the way you play.
Any other guys that have picked up secondary roles outside of those midfielders going forward that you might turn to a bit?
Oh, well, there's probably really, think about it, there's probably 60% of our list that we've asked to do secondary roles, and whether that's Carl Warner's a halfback, but to give him more opportunity, we've played him on the wing. Freddie's gone up onto the wing to be able to add to his game and give him more opportunity to get into the game at times, but also be able to give the team something different up on the wing. Switter will continue to go on ball like he has done. Guys go in and inside mid, outside to the wing. A lot of players have been asked to do that.
The wing seems like a really interesting spot for you going into round one. Do you have it clear in your mind how you want to enter the start of the season in those positions?
Oh, we've probably gone with the model we have gone with the model over the past couple of years that we've had one permanent winger and then the mids rotate through the other wing. So I would imagine not much would change from that.
Nathan O'Driscoll, does he have that spot, that rotating wing and inside midfield?
Well, he's definitely put his hand up for it. He's fitter than he's ever been. They've been really impressed with the way he handled back end of last year, the off-season, pre-season. He's done the reps, and he's had really good form across most of our pre-season intra-clubs and match practice, and played well last week. So he's well and truly in the mix.
Bit about your off-season. What did you do to refresh after a big year?
Went to, seems like a long time ago, late October, went to Italy for a family wedding, which was good. It was great to get away. My wife's parents are Italian, so it was good to get back and see where they're from and spend some time in their country with them. It's good to have a translator. My Italian's not very good. So that was great. But then, got straight back into pre-season. Got away a couple of times, did a bit of fishing. I like fishing. It's a good escape. Something about being on the ocean where you sort of, escape what's happening on land, and it's, clears my head.
Yeah.
And it's also good to catch something every now and then.
Do you block out footy, or do you come up with
Depends
ideas?
who I go with. Some of my mates like talking footy. Some of them talk about other stuff and understand the situation. But it's a different feel out in the ocean. It's it's really relaxing.
We spoke last year about how you're a self-critical coach, I think is how you described it. Do you spend time sort of analysing your own craft and how you feel you're going?
Always. Yeah. Can't ask the players to self-assess their own performances if you're not doing it yourself. So, I'm always reflecting on how I could run meetings better, how I could plan training better, how training could run better, how the environment could be better set up, and my role within that. Quote over the off-season, every issue is a leadership issue. So usually start with me when there's something going wrong or something that needs improving, and my role with that, and work out from there.
Is that a new philosophy that you...
Oh, not really a philosophy. It's just something that, caught my attention, and probably it's something that I already do, so it's not really a change of philosophy. It's just an interesting perspective to have on, issues that pop up.
With your game style, how do you balance, I guess, staying true to the things that you believe about the game and then maybe looking at what the competition's doing and how you can evolve and change your game style?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I feel like there's a preconceived perception of what I think or what others think my philosophies are sometimes, and get labelled as a defensive coach. And really, my philosophy is around making sure that we're a balanced team, and we make sure that we set ourselves up. Our defence sets our offence up, and our offence sets our defence up, and those two work together. Because I think all good clubs do that, and all good clubs, premiership winning teams and teams that have been at the top for a long period of time, have a great balance of offence and defence. The team we play in round one kick a big score, but they don't concede a score very often.
Yep.
So, but I don't necessarily think Chris gets labelled with that when his defence has always been really strong. So there's a lot that goes into being a good offensive team. Some of that is having a forward line who can win contests and perform their roles and compete. And I feel like we're getting to a stage where our forward line's maturing. We haven't got 19, 20-year-old key forwards anymore. They've had a couple more pre-seasons under their belt. They've got more games, more experience, more games. They've built their bodies and they've been able to show last year and that they can mix it with the best key backs. I'm talking about Josh and Jai and Jacko, and they're only going to be better this year because of another pre-season.
Without showing Geelong your whiteboard, will there be many tweaks or evolutions to the way the Dockers play this year?
Probably not a heap. I've already spoken about the secondary roles and flexibility that gives us in game and with rotations and that type of thing. We've got some decisions to make before round one with the makeup of our team, and how many key backs we play, and our ruck, how we set the ruck up, and then in turn how we set the forward line up. So there's a few decisions to be made. With
the how many key backs you play, is Josh Draper maybe a discussion about whether he can fit with your two leading key backs?
Yeah, that's the discussion. Drapes is in the long run going to be more than a key back because he's got the athleticism, the defensive positioning to be able to, we think, play on smalls as well as talls. And first of all, he's got to get his fitness right, and he's got to be able to be selected, and then we'll talk about selection with him.
A few other players I'm interested in. Has Andy Brayshaw got another level in him this year?
All our players have, and till the day they retire, I'll be asking them to improve their games. So of course he has. I think he's already an A grader, and his form over the last probably 4 years has been top echelon of players in the comp, and he'll continue to work on being able to execute better and being able to make more of his possessions and being able to constantly play the game and work on his leadership and all those type of things that I ask of all of our players.
Beyond Andy, Caleb Sarong and Hayden Young, who do you look at to drive your midfield to another level maybe this year?
Shay's going to spend some time in there. Obviously, across the course of the season, you've mentioned Driz has had a great pre-season. We feel like we've got some good depth in our midfield with Jono, Raz, Jago Mira, Will Brodie, and they've been competing against each other all pre-season. So there's been a really good tussle in all our intra-clubs and match sim, and they've pushed each other to improve, and we'll see how it sits round one. Clearly, Youngie's not going to be there, so there'll be a spot up for grabs, and we'll work out how we fill that spot.
I'm thinking about this from a midfield perspective, but it probably applies to your whole team. Maybe synergy isn't the right word, but the amount of football that they've played together now, what role do you think that can play in your season this year and being successful?
We kept the same group together and added a few pieces. But largely it's been the same for a little bit now, and it's really important, and little things in that as well. Like Caleb's got the ball outside 50 now. He knows what JT's going to do. Yeah. Now he knows what Jai's likely going to do, and the difference between the kicks to Jacko, who probably needs it, would like to, probably have it in a little bit higher and longer because he can get around and jump at it, versus Jai, who maybe wants it on the lead a little bit more. Like, those things are critical. We mentioned Geelong because we play in round one, but I feel like at their best when that's what they do really well. When it's probably back in the day, but the more experienced midfielders look up and they see Hawkins and they know where he wants it, and I won't have to deal with that round one. Now Hawkins is retired, but that's sort of synergy that we're looking for, and that's games together and experience together. It builds that understanding of each other's game, so it's important.
Do you track that sort of thing as a club and know what amount of games played together as a group can indicate for you?
There's some data going around with that sort of stuff, but tend to just pick the best team we can any week, and don't really put a lot of, probably look at form over and best fit for that role rather than synergy and who's played more games together. But you probably need core 15 or so playing with each other for a long period of time to build sustained success, and we're starting to get that.
The role that Nat Fyfe can play in this team this season, how would you describe it?
Well, first of all, we've got to get his body right, get him fit, and get him match fit, and see him playing a similar role to last year. He was adds a bigger body to our midfield. He's selfless in the way he embraced the roles that we gave him, whether that was playing on Heaney against Sydney, sometimes playing a little bit more defensive with his running patterns. He embraced all those roles, and I expect the same this year.
Have you got on the coaching tools much with Jai Amos as a forward? Is that something that you still do as a senior coach?
Bits and pieces. I don't want to be telling him a different message to what Jamie Graham's telling him either. So, and that goes with all our players. I coach him individually, but we'll work in with the coaches and make sure my messaging is the same as theirs. And if it's a bit ad hoc, well then I'll go and follow up with the coach and talk about what I've talked about, so that our message is aligned and the player's not hearing 2 or 3 different voices across the program about the same thing, because that causes clutter and it doesn't help them perform.
How about in the ruck? Are you sort of clear in your mind which way you want to go in round one?
No, not really. No, not clear enough to say it here. It's probably one of the harder discussions we're going to have leading into round one, because we expect Sean to be back and playing his best footy at some period early in the season, and I'm really conscious of setting Jacko up for success, not just in round one but for the season, and making sure he's really clear on his role and him getting continuity on his role and not having to chop and change. But there's also an aspect of what gives the team best chance of winning round one. So we'll weigh that up over the next couple of days. That decision doesn't need to be made, and when a decision needs to be made, I'll make it. But I usually like to take all the time provided before I make a decision.
You're always good at singling one player out with these sort of questions, but who's been your biggest improver over the pre-season?
Been asked that a bit, and I always say it's like choosing between my favourite child, and you just can't answer that as a dad. So as a coach, you get in trouble for answering that. I've just been impressed with the way all our players have approached the work. The environment they're driving is to look under every rock to see if they can find something that can help their game. And I love that curiosity, and I love how they tap into all the resources at the club to be able to look for those avenues to improve their game. And it hasn't just been one. It's been been the majority of our players.
I imagine they're getting good now, your players at dealing with expectations that seem to have been there for a couple of years now since you won that final against the Western Bulldogs. Do you need to do much preparation with your players about handling expectations this season?
And we always do, because if we go into a season thinking everything's going to go our way, you get a punch in the face and you don't know how to react. Players need to be aware of the things that are possibly going to get in the way, and the best time to do that is when you're removed from those moments. It's hard to do it. It's harder to do it in the moment. So, a bit of risk planning or distraction planning or whatever we want to call it. We always do that before the season, and there might be a time when we lose 2 in a row and everyone's on our back, and how do we navigate that moment? How do we make sure we come back to our process, stick to the things that work, not get caught up in outside noise and things that don't help us execute. And there's going to be times when we win 3, 4, 5 in a row, and people take it the other way, and we need to make sure we're just as process orientated throughout those moments and balanced, and lean on the things that help us play good footy.
Might be the same process for you, but how do you, personally handle expectations on the team and you in your role?
For me, it doesn't really change. I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks. Should I be getting more caught up in expectations? But I see my job as being able to maximise the potential of the playing group, and that expectation is always there, and that doesn't really change for me now. Perception of where we should finish on the ladder and this and that, that doesn't really interest me or keep me up at night. What keeps me up at night is how can I maximise the potential of the group.
Yep.
And how to set the team up for success, and that solely focuses for me on round one. So go into every game well prepared, thinking we can win every game because we've done the work, and if you get that process right across the course of the season, you end up winning more than you lose and finishing where you want on the ladder.
How's that, improved for you over the journey? Are there little sort of tricks or ways that you've developed to buffer that pressure on you as a coach? There's 17 other guys that go through the same thing.
Well, that's right. There's other clubs wanting to do exactly what we want to do this year as well. So we're not going to have it all our own way. I think experience helps. Clearly experience helps. You become more comfortable in all aspects of your role. So, you're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about how you can help the group. I think when things are against us is when some of my strengths come to the fore in terms of problem solving and being really clear and being able to navigate, set a plan for how you navigate out of those situations. So it's about embracing those moments and getting back to doing what matters.
As an industry broadly, have you got theories on coaching and ways to improve the industry?
I have. I've probably, coaches have been saying it for a while. Coaching profession probably doesn't get the recognition that it should. It's an important part of the industry. Good coaches, good coaching staff, good football departments, help players become their best self and maximise the potential that each player has. And I think those people should get rewarded more. And whether the cap's too tight or we should have a cap at all, we'll let other people decide that. But I think people who play a big role in the industry, like coaches do and other football department staff do, should get rewarded the way they deserve.
To wrap it up, all in seems like a little phrase that players are mentioning a little bit, something that's driving the group. Is that something that's going on here?
I haven't heard that one too much. It might have been put out there a couple of times. And across the course of a pre-season, players looking for a little bit of motivation, these terms do come up. a bit, but I don't think that's a new thing though. Like, I've seen our players all in for a long period of time. I think they're probably feeling that we can build off round 19 last year when we were in the 4 and build off that belief and build off that platform. And I think they're, like I said at the start of this interview, they're really looking forward to the season because they've got great belief in the fact that they've done the work over the pre-season, and they've got great belief in how our footy holds up when it's executed well.
Good luck for the year. Thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing what the team can do this year.
Thank you.